Welcome back to another episode of the Hardwood Speaks podcast, where the game is always going to speak for itself. Thank you guys for watching. Welcome back. We got playoff action to dive into. We got a first coach getting fired, unfortunately. So, a lot of stuff to dive into. But before I continue, I just want to go ahead and hash out some details about how this podcast is made. I record, so this is dropping on Wednesday. I record on Tuesday. It takes me a day to edit. So whatever happened yesterday, Tuesday, I do not know what happened at this point in time in the video. However, now on Wednesday, I know what happened. And if you want to check out my reaction and my statements and kind of my breakdown after the games, you can catch me on my Twitter at Speaks Podcast and on my Instagram, Hardwood Speaks. So I just wanted to hash that out. That way it doesn't seem like I am not completely up to date. If you want to catch out my most recent reaction to the games that happened yesterday, which is Magic Bucks, Heat Pacers, Rockets Thunder, and Lakers and Blazers, then you can catch me on my Twitter and my Instagram that I just mentioned. So so let's just get right into it, get started. Gonna go over the coaching, the let go of the Pelicans, letting go of Alvin Gentry. I thought that was kind of a different move. I can sense that the Pelicans, they kind of want to get started with winning now that they had the talent with Lonzo, Drew Holiday, Ingram, and Zion. Jackson Hayes is pretty young. Josh Hart is young as well. So they got a lot of young talent. They want to mix that with a new voice and probably going to get some new veterans in there. It seems that Lonzo, they said that he reportedly checked out mentally at the bubble. So I think that was kind of a big thing for the Pelicans, and maybe they're looking to go into a different direction, a direction that will be solely built around Zion. I don't think that the Pelicans should give up on Lonzo just yet. I think that they should keep him because I think him and Zion are a great combination for the two of them, and we've seen flashes of Lonzo being able to be that point guard that we thought he would be. However, I think you just got to give some time, be patient. All right, this is the first year with Lonzo. I think you got to be patient and see how this thing plays out, because Lonzo and Zion and Ingram are three guys that I think you need to have a full season together in order to get your complete sample size of how this team can work, of how they can work together. So I think that is what they should do. So on Alvin Gentry's side, I think that was a mutual agreement between the two, because I think Alvin Gentry is a great coach. I love him. I have a high regard for him. I like him in Golden State when he was the assistant coach there, and I liked him in Phoenix in 2010 when he was the head coach there after Mike D'Antoni, coaching Steve Nash and Stoudemire. I like him as a coach. I think that this was a good move, though. I think it's time to bring in a new voice now that he's been coaching there for 5 years. I think if I'm going to give you some options, I think Mark Jackson's a guy that could be something to talk about. It's these guys that I have a personal affiliation with. I like Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. I don't want to lose them off the TV. So I hope that's business-wise, I'll be good, professionally. But personally, I would like to see them stay on TV. If you're going to get someone, I think Stan Van Gundy is another guy that can be a good coach over there. So David Fizdale is another guy, So I think there's a lot of young coaches that they can get in there, and really experienced coaches as well that have had jobs before. I don't think they should go after a rookie. I think they need to go after a voice that has a high regard already. So that's kind of my assessment of that situation. So now we're going to I'm going to break down and analyze the games that happened on Monday. It was Denver and Utah, first one. I think from that, it was the story of course, is Donovan Mitchell dropping 57 points. Denver could not stop Donovan Mitchell from getting to his right hand, to his dominant hand. That was something that was killing them. The pick and roll between him and Gobert was something to be reckoned with. And Denver could not make the proper adjustments during the game, to the point where offensively Denver was clicking and was able to have the advantage, but defensively Donovan Mitchell was able to single-handedly get them back in the game. And then when he got them back into the game, they got confidence, and I liked how we saw confidence from Joe Ingles, George Niang. I liked how we saw confidence from Gobert on the defensive end. He really was anchoring down there, and for a little bit, he had his moments against Nikola Jokic where he got the best of him on the defensive end. So I think that was a good game to see. And now the question is, can Denver make the adjustments to stop Donovan Mitchell from getting to that right hand that he dominated the entire game offensively? And then on the other end, they got to figure out some adjustment because Michael Porter Jr. didn't really have that great of a game. He had a good start, coming out confident, shooting those 2 3-pointers. But then after that, he just kind of cooled off and was really quiet for the rest of the game, taking bad shots as well. That's where I think Michael Porter Jr. needs to work on his shot selection. But I think it was Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. They were phenomenal as a duo, and especially down the stretch in the clutch, Jamal Murray was absolutely sensational. I mean, it was something to watch. It was amazing to see how he took that personally last year. It was a game 7 where I think he only had like about 13 points. He didn't have a good game against Portland. And he said he's tried to train his mind to be ready for those scenarios and for those situations. And he was ready for this situation. He came into the game. They were down 4. I think Donovan Mitchell, while he had a great scoring game, he made some really key careless mistakes. The 8-second violation in crunch time, and in the first half, he had 2 careless passes. So I think he needs to work on his playmaking. I think his scoring was obviously showed in the box score and the way he was getting to his right hand. I just think that he needs to work on his playmaking because that mistake with that 8-second violation gave Denver a chance to get a 3, and then they were able to keep climbing within. They forced overtime, and of course, they were able to pull away in overtime. Jamal Murray was hitting shot after shot, and I think they need to figure out who they're going to put on Jamal Murray because Jamal Murray, he made it a point that he's quicker than Joe Ingles, and he was able to get the best of Joe Ingles. So, but it was a great game overall. I think this is an underrated playoff series in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to the game 2 today. So, yeah. Next game there was the Raptors and the Nets. This is what I'm talking about with Toronto. Toronto played a great first half. They were phenomenal. They were able to punch the Brooklyn Nets in the mouth to where a comeback in the third quarter was too little too late. They cut it to 8. They came back from 30. Was able to cut it to an 8-point game. And then Toronto was able to pull away and really just blow the game back open. But I think from Brooklyn's perspective, I think they saw some things in the third quarter that they can definitely use for the rest of the series, and possibly what I thought from the get-go, I think they can steal a game because they saw stuff in the third quarter that they could exploit for a whole 48 minutes. And if they can do that and be scrappy and have Karis LeVert and Garrett Temple and those guys be the guys that they've been in the bubble, I think they have a chance to steal a game. I think that Toronto will also be making the adjustments to stop that third quarter. So I think that's going to be something to take into account. I think we need to see how Brooklyn can respond to Fred VanVleet as well. They need to they need to go ahead and figure out how they can contain the guards. Fred VanVleet had himself a field day, 31 points and 10 assists. He was phenomenal the entire game, hitting 8 of 10 3-pointers. So I think it was something to see with Brooklyn in the third quarter, but Toronto played a full 48. They were able to, come back and refocus and punch Brooklyn back in the mouth in the fourth quarter and win that game handily. So, that's another game. That's the first game today on Wednesday. So next game there was Celtics and the Sixers. I think that was a very entertaining game. It was kind of a game. It was definitely a game of runs. Jason Tatum said it in the post game. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were definitely the catalyst for Boston offensively and defensively. They were able to get some stops and really force Tobias Harris and Josh Richardson to kind of be uncomfortable. But Joel Embiid did what I thought he needs to do. They did not lose that game because of Joel Embiid. They lost that game because they didn't give it to Joel Embiid down the stretch. And I thought that was a mistake. So I thought Philadelphia was able to go through Joel Embiid for the first three quarters, and he was able to get the best of them, scoring 26 and 16 throughout the game. And I thought that was what they need to exploit. They need to exploit that mismatch because Joel Embiid, like I said, there's not a guy in Boston or a guy in the league, let alone in Boston, that can really guard Joel Embiid in the post or even at all. He was selective with his jumpers. He was efficient. I liked his aggressiveness. And 26 and 16, that means he was imposing his will. And I liked how he was dominating that side of the ball. I think Philadelphia doesn't really have an answer for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. However, I think if I'm Philadelphia, my concern is the fact that Kemba Walker kind of had a quiet game. He was 7 for 16 on the box score. In the box score, he was nice. 7 for 16, 19 points, 5 assists. Didn't really turn over the ball too much. And I saw that you saw that in the game too. But I think if he's on, like, that game would not have been close because Kemba Walker, he's a guy that could easily pop off for a quick 20-point quarter. So I think that Philadelphia needs to address how to get an advantage to where they can contain the fact that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker could all be on at any given moment. So I think that both guys, they need to address. I think Boston needs to address how they can at least contain Joel Embiid, because if he's on and everyone else is on, Philadelphia could have easily won that game, most definitely. But I think it was a good game from Boston. They were able to play a full 48, able to get the stops that they needed down the stretch, and really get the big buckets. Jason Tatum made some big buckets, made some big free throws, and that was able to be the deciding factor for Boston. So next game and the last game to close out the night was LA and Dallas. LA and Dallas was a great game. I loved it. It was personally my favorite game of the day. It was Luka Doncic. He had a very rough first start to the game, but then he was able to come back, unlike many stars have, and really have himself a great game. He needs to calm down with the turnovers. 11 turnovers, that's way too much if you're going to have a chance. If you want to have a chance at beating the Clippers. But I liked what I saw from him. I really liked what I saw from him because, to me, again, he shows impressive things. I think it's impressive for him to have had that struggling first start to the game, and then to come back and drop 42 points, which is the most in playoff history for a playoff debut, and for him to come back and really set the tone for the Dallas offense, keep them in the game, give them a chance to win the game especially. I think that was a great game from Luka. Now, I think what everyone's talking about is Porzingis and the ejection. My take on it was I don't like the first tech. I did not like the first tech. I think the first tech was pretty bogus on the ref's part. But I think it was on Kristaps Porzingis for the second tech to get involved because he had more at stake. At that point of the game, you had the tech. I don't think it was smart of him to get himself involved in that situation. I don't think he should have put his hand anywhere. I think he should have just taken Luka and tried to get him away. I think that's what he should have done. I don't think he should have went in there to try to back up Luka. I think he could have backed up Luka to Luka head personally. I don't think he needed to get into the whole scuffle and try to get at Marcus Morris. He just put his hand there. I get it, but putting your hand on someone, and that at that point in the game, the refs were kind of being soft. So I think that Porzingis needed to be aware of that. But that's on the refs as much as it is. I think it's on Porzingis as much as it is on the refs. But to the point that about the first tech, I think that to a bigger picture, I think the NBA needs to instill a point in the game after each quarter. If a tech is assessed, let's say it's assessed in the first quarter. If a tech is assessed in the first quarter, I think at the end of the first quarter, there needs to be a committee to decide whether to rescind or to keep that tech standing, because that first tech, I'm pretty sure if the three refs conversed and talked about it, two of them would have been like, no, that's a bad call. Let's rescind it. Let's take it away. That way, if there is a tech that may be deserving, then we're not throwing him out of the game for a tech that was not deserving. So for me, I think that's what the NBA should look at. I think they should look at a point in the game where you can take away the technical foul, because especially if it's a bad call, because the first call was Porzingis arguing and not really being that hostile towards the ref. He was just upset because it was a clean block, and by the replay, it was a clean block. And I think you don't need to take away the point from the technical free throw. I think that comes with the game. But I think what needs to happen is you need to take away a technical foul, because you need to have a fairness to where they can stay on the court fairly, So, and it goes both ways. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I think for me, that's an idea that the NBA should entertain. But overall, it was a great game. Dallas was able to keep themselves in it. But Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were too much. Paul George had a great second half. Lou Williams wasn't really having that great of a fourth quarter. Usually he's a closer, but he wasn't being that. But Paul George was. Paul George hit the big three to extend the lead to an 8-point game, and that really was all she wrote for that game. So Clippers, Celtics, Toronto, and Brooklyn, and Denver, they were all able to take that first game, take a 1-0 lead. It's interesting to see what adjustments are made for game 2, but I really liked what I saw from the first game. It's exciting to have playoff basketball back. So, and then for the rest of the episode, what I'm going to go over to Portland and how they can actually be dangerous to the Lakers, but also their concerns. So I'm going to go over why people are concerned, and maybe people are saying that it'll be a sweep because the Lakers are a better team, But I'm going to go over why I believe that they can take this series to 6 games. So for my first concern, I'm going to go over is the defense, and that's the only concern. So the defense for Portland is very rough, and I think it's because that they have the bodies. CJ McCollum has a pretty good sizable wingspan. Melo has a big body. He's 6'8", 6'9", and you got a lot of guys like Zach Collins, Nurkic, and Whiteside who are big. But I think having those guys, but they don't have the awareness. That's the problem with Portland. I don't think they have the awareness of the opponent's personnel, and I think that, and also they don't really communicate. All playoff teams, I think they communicate, but there's a difference between good communicators and bad communicating teams. So I think Portland is a poor communicating team because they kind of have some mishaps on defense. And so this is what I'm talking about. So in this first play, you see John Morant, he's being guarded by CJ McCollum, and a lot of guys are spread out. A lot of guys are on that side, so it's a strong side. But what I'm looking at here is Hassan Whiteside, not taking account into who he's guarding. Gary Trent, he's taking account into Grayson Allen. He's a good 3-point shooter, solid 3-point shooter. And everyone else is on the strong side. So I think here is where John Morant gets the blow by. He goes right by CJ, and then he's up in the air. So here, look, I'll pause it. Here, Hassan Whiteside should have known that Nurkic had him, because at that point, John Morant is in no man's land. He has nowhere to go. He's in the air. At that point, Hassan Whiteside should have just been like, okay, he's got him. There's nowhere he can go. Let me get to the shooter in the corner. Brandon Clark is a 35% 3-point shooter. So I think that was a lack of awareness on Hassan Whiteside's part, and I think that was lack of communication. He didn't get out there, and even when he was out there, Gary Trent was the one to contest, and he was able to knock down the 3. So I think that was a big kind of a mishap defensively and not understanding the personnel of who you're guarding. Now on this play, you have John Morant, and here I'll just play a little bit more, and you have Gary Trent. He signaled to Damian Lillard, yo, you see here, Carmelo Anthony is on Anthony Tolliver. Gary Trent just signaled, yo, I got Kyle Anderson. Dame, you got ball. So he's guarding Kyle Anderson here. CJ McCollum is on Dylan Brooks. And Valanciunas is being guarded by Nurkic. So Damian Lillard, you're the leader of the team. If it's okay if you're not that good defensively, like if you don't have like the instincts to be a good defensive player, but at least put in the effort. Here, you made it to where John Morant saw an opening. I could fit. Do you see this space right here? I could fit a truck. So we have an Acura MDX. I could fit the car in through this defense. And that's Damian Lillard's problem. He should have cut him off here, stepped in front, at least give John Morant misdirection where he needs to change direction, and the other and his teammates can possibly get in the action and force a double team or something like that. But instead, Damian Lillard doesn't do anything. He doesn't cut him off at all, and then it forces Nurkic to have to guard him. And John Morant is too quick, too good at changing space and changing speed to guard John Morant. He's too quick. So defensively, they don't have the personnel they have the bodies, but they don't have the personnel in the mind and in the mental capacity to get it done on the defensive end, unfortunately. And that it's tough because going against a Lakers team, it's a team where the Lakers could gain the Lakers are struggling offensively. They could gain some offensive confidence on that end against Portland, who seems to be very poor on that end. But where I think the Blazers have an advantage is the play on the perimeter. So no Avery Bradley for the Lakers. So that's one thing. So for me, just right then and there, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are going to have a field day on the perimeter. Okay. So, but not only that, they also have Damian Lillard is a solid playmaker. CJ McCollum is a solid playmaker. So, in this scenario, I think you got to see that the Blazers have some offensive people that can, offensive personnel that can create their own shot. Carmelo Anthony's always been able to create his own shot. CJ McCollum was doing it against Memphis in this game, and you had Damian Lillard. You got Gary Trent, who's able to spot up for the three and really get that little one dribble pull up. He's been really good out in the bubble. But I think that overall, you got to have these guys to take into account if you're the Lakers, because this team is a good team offensively. It's a third best offensive rating in the league. So, and I'm gonna show you how this comes into fruition in the course of a game. So. Here you got Damian Lillard. He comes down, and then he comes off a Nurkic screen, and then another Whiteside screen. So here you got Hazonia, who you can give it to him, and then he has a beeline drive to the basket. Okay, but instead of giving it to Hazonia, and then play it more, instead of getting it to Whiteside where he can give him a wide pass, but you got Brandon Clark on him. So Damian Lillard makes the smart decision and getting it to the guy who is being doubled off, because Nurkic was on the ground. So Nurkic gets back up. Damian Lillard throws a nice one bounce pass, and Nurkic spots up for the three. And if Nurkic is that confident offensively and being that stretch five that Blazers need, that can be a lot of stuff great. That could be a lot of great stuff for the Blazers offensively. So, especially when you got guys that can make some defensive mistakes like Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, you got Jared Dudley. A lot of guys can make some defensive mistakes during the course of the game, and that's where you can take advantage with the stretch five. So you got Damian Lillard in this action. He comes up with another screen. All right, and here he is drawn to right here and right then and there. You got John Morant. He's guarding Damian Lillard. That's his man. And then you got Valanciunas keyed in on Damian Lillard. So Damian Lillard comes down, gives him a nice little pocket pass, and here Nurkic could actually attack the basket. If he does a little Euro step, he could attack the basket, but instead he avoids a possibility of getting a charge, an offensive foul, because Dylan Brooks gets into position to where he can make a play, and then Nurkic kicks out to CJ McCollum in the corner for a pocket three-pointer. So that's what happens when you have the presence of Damian Lillard, where he's taking the attention from the defense. So if you have him taking the attention from the defense and everyone else is able to make these plays on the fly, then I think that's going to be something really good for the Blazers. They're not the third best offensive rating in the league by accident. They have guys that can make the plays, and Terry Stotts has done a really good job offensively with this team. Now, it's a pick your poison. It gets to a pick your poison kind of stratosphere because of Damian Lillard. If you leave him in single coverage, then you're basically, it's barbecue chicken for Damian Lillard for almost any defender in the league. So you see here, he's got Dillon Brooks on him, and Dillon Brooks is he's Memphis' best perimeter defender for sure. So he comes down the court here, and then Damian Lillard, easy, no hesitation, hits a three. And it's a quick play, that one was, but it's just in general, Damian Lillard can make those plays at any given moment and really just be that dangerous guy that can light you up for 40 a night. So the Lakers need to take into account the Blazers on the offensive end, but the Blazers, the one with Brandon Clark and the 3-pointer for like Hassan Whiteside, they need to be better at that, because if Hassan Whiteside is doing that and he's guarding Anthony Davis, imagine Anthony Davis is more of a knockdown shooter than Brandon Clark. So I think that they need to take that into account. If they want to force it to 6 games, they got to make smarter decisions defensively, and also keep what they've been doing offensively in the bubble and keep it going, because CJ McCollum can get his own shot, Damian Lillard can get his own shot, and everyone else has shown that they can give the Blazers and Damian Lillard, give them some cushion offensively. So I'm very excited for this series. I believe it's going to go 6 games, like I said in the playoff preview. But, it's all up to the Blazers and their decision making, and if they're able to take advantage of the Lakers' ineptitude on the offensive end right now at the moment. So yeah, I'm excited for this playoff. Again, thank you guys for watching. That's really it for the episode. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and catch me on Saturday, where the game is always going to speak for itself.